Yes, miss.
Okay, so from the chapter Transport in Mammals, since we've already done how the heart functions, what are the names of the different parts of the heart, how do they contract, what are the mechanisms that enable a one directional flow of blood in the heart, right? After doing all that, we also need to know about the different kinds of blood vessels that we have in our body,
Hmm.
right? And what is their structure and what are their functions. So, since we are multicellular organisms, and since we are highly complex, we've been made of different organs, cells, tissues, and systems.
मैं
So,
ये after 6:15 like थोड़ा सा time है.
after 7:15,
No,
what are you
6:15.
saying?
If you want, we can have our class till 6:30 because this is my last tuition of the day.
6:30 or 7:30?
Oh, I mean 7:30. Sorry, my bad.
Huh. I'll have it till 7. I'll see. I'll see how it goes about, right?
Okay,
Acha,
okay.
now just try to pay attention. Okay?
Yeah.
We have, what was I saying? I'm lost. Acha, in order, we are complex multicellular organisms. Okay. So we need a proper pumping mechanism and a set of vessels that will carry the blood from one place to another. So the pump part हमने कर लिया है. अब हम vessels वाला part कर रहे हैं, right? How many kinds of vessels do we have? We have three kinds of vessels, and those are arteries, veins and capillaries. ठीक है, अब बात गौर से पहले समझना है. Just listen to it and then I will like of course I will share the notes with you. Arteries, veins and capillaries. ठीक है. What are arteries? Arteries are those vessels which carry the blood away from the heart. कैसे इसको याद रखना है? A for artery and A for away, right?
Yeah.
A for artery, A for away. तो अगर हमने away याद कर लिया तो फिर दूसरी चीज क्या होगी? Veins will carry the blood towards the heart, right? अच्छा, capillaries are actually those very very tiny blood vessels whose job is to actually supply oxygen to the deepest cells of your body, tiniest cells. Cells तो बहुत छोटे होते हैं ना, बिल्कुल लेने के. For example, if I look at my hand, so right now I can see my fingers, I can see my skin, but my fingers, my skin, everything is made up of millions and millions of cells. So to make sure that each cell of every part of your body gets oxygen, and from each cell of your body carbon dioxide is also removed, यानी oxygen उनको पहुंचे और carbon dioxide वहां से remove हो, that's the job of the capillaries. ठीक है? Arteries will carry the blood away from the heart, veins will carry the blood towards the heart, and capillaries will supply oxygen to the cells and tissues and remove carbon dioxide from the cells and tissues. Now, this is the main outline of these. Yes,
Okay, no, nothing.
you were saying something?
No, miss, I was just asking about veins, but then I just remembered they carry the blood away from the heart, towards the heart,
Not
sorry.
towards the heart. ठीक है? अच्छा, just to give you an idea how this happens, so we should look at this diagram. This shows you a network of arteries and veins. ठीक है? आपको नजर आ रहा है कि the one that is colored in pink या orangish जो भी color है, those are the vessels which are carrying the blood away from the heart. यानी वो heart से blood बाहर जा रहा है. Isn't it? Can you see all the arrows? है या नहीं
Yeah.
है?
Pink arrows,
ठीक है?
right?
The pink, everything which is pink in color is representing oxygenated blood, and if you look at it, it is coming out of the heart. Heart से बाहर आ रहा है ये blood. ये देखो, ये बाहर आ रहा है, right? और बाहर आके फिर कहाँ जाएगा? बॉडी में जाएगा. ठीक है? So the arteries by that definition are carrying the blood away from the heart, and veins सारी blue हैं. तो veins का arrow कहाँ है? कहाँ जा रहा है? Are the arrows in the veins going towards the heart?
Yes.
तो इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि veins are, हाँ. Now from amongst these arteries and veins, there is one artery which is the pulmonary artery. वो भी blood carry कहाँ कर रही है? Away from the heart. Can you tell me कि पल्मोनरी आर्टरी शुरू कहाँ से होती है? वेयर डज इट स्टार्ट?
From the lung.
Not from the lungs. Have a look now. Look at this diagram. I have zoomed into it. The pulmonary artery is starting from which chamber of the heart? ये हमने परसों ही किया है.
X, left atrium. No,
No,
sorry,
no,
right
no,
atrium.
no, no. Look at the diagram. Look at the diagram. पल्मोनरी आर्टरी को फॉलो करो, नीचे 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 जाओ और देखो हार्ट के कौन से चेंबर से पल्मोनरी आर्टरी निकल रही है.
Right atrium.
No, not right atrium.
Oh, sorry, right ventricle.
राइट वेंट्रिकल. राइट वेंट्रिकल से निकल रही है. अच्छा, बाय दैट डेफिनेशन हमने क्या कहा थोड़ी देर पहले? आर्टरीज कैरी द ब्लड अवे फ्रॉम द हार्ट. तो ये अवे फ्रॉम द हार्ट कैरी कर रही है?
नहीं.
कर रही है ना?
Oh,
बिल्कुल कर
yeah.
रही है. अवे अवे हार्ट
Yeah.
से बाहर निकल रही है. जो चीज हार्ट से बाहर निकल रही है उसका मतलब अवे. ठीक है, तो
Yeah.
अगेन सेम थिंग, बट इसमें सिर्फ एक डिफरेंस ये है इसके अंदर कि इट इज नॉट कैरिंग ऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड. ठीक है, अवे फ्रॉम द हार्ट तो कर रही है लेकिन इट्स नॉट कैरिंग द ऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड. तो एक्चुअली अगर आप इस डायग्राम को गौर से देखो ना, all the arteries, all of them, जो भी हो, hepatic artery, the renal artery, the arteries of the legs, सारी की सारी arteries जो है ना, you can see that they are colored in pink. But ऐसे क्यों है कि pulmonary artery is colored in blue? Tell me why.
Because it's carrying deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs.
Exactly. तो इसका मतलब हुआ, now this is an exception. This is an exception, meaning that this is the only artery in your body which is carrying deoxygenated blood. ठीक है, likewise अगर आप सारी veins को देखो.
Yeah.
Yes, you are saying something.
But although the function is the same, like it is carrying blood, but बस फर्क इतना है कि वो deoxygenated blood carry कर रही है.
बिल्कुल. और सारी veins को देखो, are all the veins blue in color, isn't
Yeah.
it? But there is a vein which is red in color. What is that vein? Look at the diagram.
The pulmonary vein.
अब मुझे बताओ, पल्मोनरी वेन को ट्रेस करो और मुझे बताओ कि पल्मोनरी वेन आ कहां से रही है? वेयर इज इट कमिंग
Ventricle.
फ्रॉम?
Left ventricle.
नो, फॉलो द पल्मोनरी वेन. पल्मोनरी वेन पीछे पीछे जाओ, पीछे जाओ, कहां से आ रही है? और ऊपर जाओ, पीछे पीछे जाके देखो.
You
दिस इज
mean
द पल्मोनरी वेन. इट्स कमिंग फ्रॉम द लंग्स.
oh
फ्रॉम
yeah.
का मतलब आ तो ऊपर, फ्रॉम का मतलब क्या? इंग्लिश का वर्ड है ना, इट्स कमिंग फ्रॉम द लंग्स. अच्छा, लंग्स से आ रही है. इसको इग्नोर करो, इसको देखने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. फॉलो इट, फॉलो इट, फॉलो इट. वेयर इज इट गोइंग? विच चेंबर ऑफ द हार्ट इज दिस?
Left atrium.
सिंपल सी एक बात है, बिल्कुल सिंपल सी एक बात है. पल्मोनरी आर्टरी is arising from the right ventricle, carrying which blood?
Deoxygenated.
To the
Lungs.
lungs to get
Oxygenated.
oxygenated, and then it comes back being oxygenated through which vessel?
Pulmonary vein.
Back to the which chamber of the heart?
Left atrium.
ठीक है, now this is clear. Now inshallah you should not forget it. Okay, so we will say now the bottom line will be that number one classic feature, distinctive feature of every artery is that it carries the blood away from the heart. ये तो सब arteries के अंदर है. अच्छा, एक और feature भी है सब arteries के अंदर कि as a general rule they all carry oxygenated blood. लेकिन stop, here we have an exception. And what's the exception? That the pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood and the pulmonary vein carries oxygenated. ठीक है, हाँ, लेकिन ये उस चीज में तो एक्सेप्शन है, लेकिन जो पहला वाला जो फीचर था उसमें एक्सेप्शन नहीं है, बिकॉज इट इज कैरिंग द ब्लड अवे फ्रॉम द हार्ट. अवे तो ये कर रहा है, ए फॉर आर्टरी, ए फॉर अवे. और वेन्स को हम कहते हैं ना, वेन्स आर कैरिंग द ब्लड टुवर्ड्स द हार्ट, तो पल्मोनरी वेन भी टुवर्ड्स द हार्ट ही जा रही है. तो ये उस डेफिनेशन से तो दे आर फॉलोइंग एग्जैक्टली अंडर द डेफिनेशन ऑफ एन आर्टरी और अ वेन, बट एक चीज में doesn't contain oxygenated blood and the pulmonary vein doesn't contain deoxygenated blood. उल्टा है, ठीक है? अच्छा, now this your syllabus, your learning outcome actually expects you कि आपको इन मोटी मोटी arteries का नाम पता होना चाहिए. कैसे? कि you should know that the largest artery in your body is what?
The
Largest
aorta.
artery? Aorta. And all the other arteries in your body are actually sub branches of the aorta. For instance, हाँ, for instance, अब aorta अपने रास्ते में जा रहे तो सबको branches दे के जा रहा है. For example, aorta is coming here, is giving the branches हाँ to your arms, ribs. फिर liver को दे रहा है तो hepatic artery. Then it's giving to stomach and intestines. Then it is giving to the kidney तो renal artery. और हर जगह, ठीक है? Now, अब इसमें, in your syllabus, you're not supposed to remember the name of all the arteries. The only arteries that you need to remember the name is that of aorta, hepatic artery,
And
renal
renal.
artery. इसी तरह से उस साइड पे renal vein, hepatic vein,
And
vena
pulmonary.
cava. हाँ, तो मतलब 3 arteries and 3 veins you can remember. और बाकी तो हार्ट का स्ट्रक्चर तो हम सबको आता है. तो this is actually a part of your learning outcome.
Okay.
Any questions you want to ask?
Yeah.
If not, then I'll move on.
Yeah.
Acha. Second thing which your syllabus requirement is that you should know the basic features of an artery, vein and a capillary. तो वो ये है. इसको देखो. In this picture, you are shown an artery, a vein and a capillary. सबसे पहले artery को ले लेते हैं. Artery की जो wall है ना, that's very very thick. You can see it's so thick. Look at the thickness. And it's made up of muscle tissue and elastic tissue. कैसे? ये बिल्कुल ऐसे जैसे कि एक रबर बैंड की तरह. हम रबर बैंड को के अंदर इलास्टिसिटी होती है. इनफैक्ट रबर बैंड के अंदर मसल नहीं होता, लेकिन इसके अंदर मसल भी है, राइट? सो इट्स वेरी थिक because it has lots of muscle and lots of elastic fibers. And the lumen का मतलब होता है उसका narrow, जो empty space है ना वो, the lumen is small. ठीक है? The lumen is small. अब ये बिल्कुल इस तरह से आप सोचो कि जैसे आपका shower head होता है, right? This is your shower head and these are the tiny holes in your shower. So do you think that these tiny holes or the tiny lumens, multiple lumens of your shower is going to increase the pressure of the water coming in?
Yeah.
It will. So this means that आप मुझे बताओ, अगर blood को हम कहें कि वो इस वाले vessel से pass हो, we allow the blood, a gush of blood to pass through this vessel and through this vessel. Where will you find more pressure?
The artery.
बिल्कुल artery. ठीक है? तो देखने से ही हमें 2-3 बातें पता चल गई. Number 1, the lumen of the artery is narrow. ठीक? Number 2, the wall of the artery is very thick. Why? Because it has elastic and muscle tissues. Number 3, the pressure of the blood inside the arteries is very very high. अच्छा, अब प्रेशर क्योंकि हाई है ना, लॉजिकली आप याद रखोगे ना, अभी ना इसके ऊपर, इस टॉपिक के ऊपर पूरे 2 पेज भरे हुए हैं. Lot of text and lot of unfriendly text, student friendly text in the, इसमें देख के आपको बोरियत होगी. लेकिन a very easy way to understand is कि आप इस डायग्राम को देखो और लॉजिकली सोचो. लॉजिकली सोचो कि आप खुद सोचो कि एक वेसल है आपके पास जिसका ल्यूमन इतना नैरो है, राइट? And the pressure of the blood will be very high. अब pressure क्योंकि very high है, do you think you need any valves over here?
No.
हाँ, सही बोला. No, very good. Because let me just show you this diagram. अब देखो, ये रहा आपका हार्ट, राइट? And the largest artery is the aorta. अब heart is actually sending this blood to the aorta at a very very high pressure. Valves हमेशा उस जगह में होती हैं जहाँ पे blood का एक चांस हो कि वो ब्लैक, हाँ, पीछे चला जाए. Backflow, to prevent backflow. Now the reason why there are no valves in the arteries is that the pressure of the blood inside the artery is so high that there is no risk of backflow, so hence no valves. ठीक है? समझ आ रही है बात? अच्छा, अब जब ये समझ आ गई है तो a vein is exactly the opposite for an artery. तो अब जैसे मैंने आपको artery के features बताए ना, आप मुझे just by looking at the diagram, you tell me about the vein. Okay.
Vein has a
Yes.
big.
Look at the vein.
Vein
Correct.
has
Big lumen.
which tells us that there won't be much pressure in the vein compared to the
Okay.
artery.
Mm-hmm. And
And it is made up of
less
fiber
pressure.
tissue, whereas fiber tissue and muscle layer, whereas arteries are made of elastic fibers and muscle layer.
So this means, can I say no elastic tissue over here?
Yes.
Achha, do you think that if something has such a big lumen and you are saying that the pressure is also less, do you think that such kind of a blood, when it flows through a vessel, is there a chance of backflow?
No.
There is, because it slow कर रहा है ना, स्लो
Hmm.
स्लो फ्लो कर रहा है, तो पीछे पीछे जाने का चांस है. देखो,
Yeah.
एक पानी का एक रिवर है, राइट? इमेजिन अ रिवर व्हिच इज फ्लोइंग एट अ वेरी हाई स्पीड. ऊपर से माउंटेन से गिर रही है रिवर, ठीक है?
Yeah.
वो आगे की तरफ ही बढ़ती जाएगी, पीछे नहीं जाएगी,
Mm.
ठीक है? बट इफ यू हैव अ पॉन्ड, अ स्टिल पॉन्ड जिसमें बड़ी हल्की हल्की सी वेव्स हैं, तो हो सकता है पानी पीछे भी चला जाए. आर यू गेटिंग
Yeah.
माय पॉइंट? सो ऑलवेज रिमेंबर दैट whenever the pressure is high, जो कि arteries में होता है, there is no risk of backflow. No risk
Backflow.
of backflow. तो hence no valves. Veins में pressure कम है तो speed slow है of the blood. So is there a risk of backflow in the veins?
No. Oh yes,
Veins
sorry.
में,
There is. जी है.
yes. So if there is a risk of backflow, so is there a need for valves?
Yes.
ठीक, समझ आया?
Yeah.
तो now if we look at this table, read only about the artery and the vein.
Okay.
यहाँ से यहाँ तक पढ़ो, एंड दिस इज एन एग्जैक्ट रेपिटेशन ऑफ व्हाट वी डन. पता है क्या, स्टूडेंट्स इसके रटे मारते हैं, लेकिन रटे मारने की भी कोई जरूरत नहीं. जस्ट लुक एट दीज थ्री डायग्राम्स एंड ट्राई टू मेक सेंस ऑफ देम. रीड देम.
Uh, Miss, I've read it.
Okay, if you've read it, then I am going to go back to the diagram and you will explain it to me once again in your own words. अभी मैंने आपको समझाया. Just look at these two diagrams, the artery and the vein. इस diagram से मुझे समझाओ. Yes.
Okay, so Miss, first we can talk about what they're made of. So, arteries are made from elastic fiber lining and muscle layer, whereas veins are made from lining, muscle layer, and fibrous tissue. Arteries have a lumen, जिसमें the pressure is really high and the blood flows in one direction, and it does not, and there is no chance of backflow. However, in the vein, the lumen is very big and blood flows and there is less pressure, so blood flows at a slower rate, and there is a chance of backflow. Therefore, valves are used for the flow of blood so that it can.
Prevention of backflow. अच्छा, now the capillary. ठीक है? कैपिलरी ये ऐसी होती है. रिलेटिव साइज देखो, फॉर एग्जांपल कि अगर आर्टरी इतनी बड़ी है ना, तो the vein is this size and the capillary is this size. Look at the size, so tiny. And if we actually zoom into it, this is how the capillary looks like. ये वाली जो चीज है वो capillary है, not the red one but the black one. I'll just
Yeah.
outline in black and show you. ये वाली. This is the capillary. In fact, let me use another color, blue. Okay, now I'm outlining the capillary. Do you see how I'm outlining it? अब
Yeah.
ये आता है मुश्किल वाला पार्ट, और ये वो था जो last time when I was giving you a question from the past paper and you weren't able to do it, so this was the reason, because you had not actually gone through this topic. ठीक है, तो ये रहा आपका. You can see, don't look at this thing. ये तो जो आपको अंदर नजर आ रहे हैं वो red blood cells हैं, because of course what will you find inside the capillaries? Red blood cells.
Exactly.
Relative size इतना छोटा सा चुन्नू मुन्नू सा है, but when you zoom into it, the capillary looks like this, ऐसे करके, a rounded structure which is made up of these flattened cells. अच्छा, they actually look that they are joined end to end. मैं इसको अगर रब करूं, but they are not joined. They have got these tiny spaces. नजर आ रही है ये space? देखो, this space, this space, this space, this and this. ठीक है? And now I'm going to go into the details of it. So capillaries are the tiniest and the most delicate and the thinnest of all the blood vessels. Why are they shaped like this? Because their job is to go to the deepest and the furthest of all, like every cell in your body, supply oxygen over there, remove carbon dioxide and waste products over there. So it has to be thin. It has to be thin. और उसकी thinness कितनी thin है? It is one cell thick. यानी कि उसकी जो outer boundary है ना, it's just one cell thick. इतना thin है ये, right? And why is it so thin? Because उसकी job ही है कि it has to supply oxygen to the tissues, the cells in the tissues, and remove carbon dioxide from the cells in the tissues. ठीक है? अच्छा, since ये इतने पतले हैं, तो it's out of question that the capillary would have an elastic wall या फिर क्या कहते हैं muscle wall. Muscle elastin तो हो ही नहीं सकता ना, क्योंकि ये हैं ही इतने thin. So capillaries have a very very narrow lumen. बहुत ही छोटा, जब भी खुद ही इतनी सी छोटी, तो उसका lumen कितना narrow होगा, right? No valves. ठीक है? Let me rub it. Narrow lumen, no valves,
I
no
get myself,
muscle, no elastic tissue. Yes, what are you saying?
I get myself water. Can you just give me 1 minute?
Yeah, sure.
Miss,
ठीक है,
इसमें तो
although, yes,
any narrow.
yes, what are you saying?
So here, they have a very narrow lumen.
Mm-hmm.
मिस वो नैरो भी क्यों
Yes,
कह
ना,
रहे हैं? सो स्मॉल कि उसको नैरो भी नहीं कहना चाहिए.
इतना तो है कि it's allowing a red blood cell to pass.
ओह.
काम वो अपना बहुत अच्छा करिए. Exactly, it's allowing a red blood cell to pass. Narrow lumen, no valves, no muscular tissue, no elastic tissue. Acha, although what does the textbook say? Although all components of the blood cannot escape from the capillary, the thin capillary walls allow some liquid to pass through, which means the capillary walls are permeable. Blood pressure in
Actually,
the capillaries, blood pressure in the capillaries forces part of the plasma out through the walls. The capillary network is so dense that no living cell is far from a supply of oxygen and food. The capillaries join up into larger vessels, which then combine to form veins. Now look here. ये नहीं समझ आएगा जब तक कि मैं आपको ये ना दिखाऊं डायग्राम. ठीक है? So this is how it is. This is a diagram and for this you have to pay attention and then I'll go back to the same question जो हम कर रहे थे वहां पे. ये बहुत आता है, वैसे हो भी सकता है कि आपके एग्जाम में ही आ जाए. Showing you, this is showing you, and now pay attention to this. थोड़ा सा मुश्किल है ये. A capillary bed means it's a network of capillaries in the tissue of your body. कोई सा भी tissue. ठीक है? बेड का मतलब बहुत सारी कैपिलरीज. कैसे? इस तरह से. नाउ ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस. बिल्कुल ऐसे. ये देखो. Once upon a time a capillary was an artery. इतनी मोटी सी. It then became thinner and then it became thinner and thinner and thinner and it became a capillary. समझ आ रही है? So what I'm drawing right now and I'm actually highlighting with my highlighter is a capillary bed. Are you getting it? ठीक है? Are you understanding this, Aniza?
yes, yes.
ठीक है? And you can see that after a certain time, यानी इस जगह पे इस capillary bed का color change हो रहा है. क्यों change हो रहा है? क्योंकि bed is actually surrounded by lots of tissue cells. आपके अपने tissue cells. अब ये जो tissue cells थे ना, तो इन कैपिलरीज को, इन टिश्यू सेल्स को ऑक्सीजन देना था, तो ऑक्सीजन चला गया, जा रहा है जा रहा है जा रहा है, और देना ऑक्सीजन था और इनसे क्या निकालना था, CO2 निकालना था, CO2 is coming. So by the time the blood reaches from this end to this end, the blood turns blue in color, which means the blood becomes impure or deoxygenated. Why is that happening? Because the capillaries are giving away their oxygen and receiving CO2 from the tissues. और फिर रिसीव करने के बाद जाहिर है जब वो रिसीव करेंगे तो उनका ब्लड का कलर चेंज हो जाएगा. एंड नाउ वी वोंट बी कॉलिंग देम कैपिलरीज, वी विल बी कॉलिंग देम, ये देखो अब इस बात को गौर से सुनो, दिस इज द बाउंड्री लाइन, तो इसको हम कहेंगे कैपिलरीज एंड दीज विल बी वेन्यूल्स. ठीक है, and you can see all these venules, they are joining up and they are forming what, veins. So this means किसी भी vein को उठा के देख लो, किसी भी artery को उठा के देख लो, once upon a time every capillary was an artery and once upon a time every vein was a venule. And the reason why they need to narrow down, the reason why every artery needs to narrow down to become a capillary and every vein needs to narrow down become a venule is that they have to reach the deepest parts of your body, जो कि cells हैं. Cells में इतने मोटे मोटे arteries नहीं जा सकते, cell बहुत छोटा होता है, artery बहुत मोटी है. So to allow each and every cell of your body to get blood, these arteries need to divide into thinner networks known as capillaries. जब कैपिलरी अपना ऑक्सीजन दे देते हैं सेल्स को और सेल्स से कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड ले लेते हैं तो वो वेन्यूल्स बन जाते हैं एंड दोज वेन्यूल्स रीयूनाइट टू फॉर्म वेन्स. समझ आई बात या नहीं?
आगे.
यू विल एक्सप्लेन इट टू मी इन योर ओन वर्ड्स. इसमें से देख के बताओ. यस.
So Miss, first the artery is fat, so it needs to specialize itself so that it can provide oxygen to the cells of the body. So वो artery then divides to become a capillary and वो बहुत छोटी छोटी बन जाती हैं. They're very very tiny vessels. And then what these vessels do is that capillaries basically give the oxygen they contain in the blood, they basically give it to the tissues. And once they're losing out, once like their diffusion takes place, तो फिर जो capillaries के अंदर oxygen होता है वो खत्म हो जाता है. So then the blood starts turning blue. And then miss ये the veins then divide to become venules. And then miss, I don't get it,
No,
like
no, no,
when
no, 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 no. Veins won't divide. You have to say that the arteries, when they want to supply blood to the cells, they become narrow and form capillaries. Capillaries will donate their oxygen to the cells. Cells यहाँ पे नजर नहीं आ रहे, यहाँ पे imagine करो यहाँ बहुत सारे cells हैं.
yeah, the
So
brown cells.
what are the हाँ, तो capillaries are actually giving away their oxygen. ये समझ लो कि ऑक्सीजन, तो ये मोटा बहुत हो जाता है, ऑक्सीजन बाहर जा रहा है, ऑक्सीजन बाहर जा रहा है और कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड अंदर आ रहा है. So when the carbon dioxide enters the blood becomes deoxygenated and now we won't be calling them, देखने में वो बिल्कुल कैपिलरी की तरह लगते, but we won't be calling them capillaries, we'll be calling them venules, ये वाले. And all the venules are going to reunite to form
Veins.
veins. अच्छा, दोबारा से repeat करो अभी. I want you to repeat it again and again so that it becomes, because अभी तो मैंने I'm just doing a part of it. अभी मैं इसके जब मीटिंग एंड करूंगी तो I'll explain what's happening over here. ठीक है, गैस एक्सचेंज होती कैसे. Again,
Miss,
explain this to me once.
उसके बाद like once we're done with this, can we like discuss के जो हमने मंडे को डिस्कस किया था, like can you just ask me कि ब्लड कैसे कहाँ जाता है फिर कहाँ से निकलता है and all of that, like
Yes,
उसकी.
yes, we'll do that.
Okay, so miss, basically first what happens is that arteries become narrow and they specialize themselves to become capillaries, which are very tiny blood vessels. These are important because there are millions of tiny cells surrounding the capillaries, which needed to be provided with oxygen. So the capillaries contain oxygenated blood. Through diffusion, they provide oxygen to these cells, and once that diffusion process takes place, the oxygen concentration in the capillaries reduces and the blood starts becoming deoxygenated. After the blood starts becoming deoxygenated, the venules, it basic
Reunite.
it, the venules,
You'll
yeah,
say the word reunite to form.
venules,
No, venules will reunite to form vein.
capillaries, yeah.
अच्छा, एक और बात बताओ now.
हाँ,
Since
तो
you
मुझे
know this, now you tell. Yes, Aniza.
Miss, like, okay, so I know these capillaries, they miss like ये आगे जाके venules बन जाते हैं या क्या? Venule, ये already venules होते हैं जो blue blue है.
ये वेन्यूल ही है, ये वेन्यूल ही है, ये reunite होके क्या बन रहे हैं? वेन.
Oh, अच्छा. So miss, how am I
These
supposed to say it? Like once artery में से oxygen खत्म हो जाता है, then it comes in contact with the venules.
you will say that these capillaries are going to give away oxygen and take carbon dioxide from the tissues, and once they take, the blood becomes deoxygenated, and now we say that the blood is inside venules.
Venules. Oh, okay.
समझ आ रही है?
जी जी.
हाँ. And then these venules will reunite to form
Veins.
veins. अच्छा, अब मुझे एक बात बताओ कि if I ask you, let's say if I say that this is the venular end, yeah, venular end, and this is the capillary end, which end has a higher pressure?
Good question.
Pressure of blood. Very easy.
ये red वाला.
Red wala, because okay, why? Tell me why.
The thing is कि वो
This end is close. This end is close to
the aorta.
and this end is close to the veins. Veena cava. अभी अभी तो हमने पीछे पढ़ा था कि आर्टरीज के अंदर प्रेशर बहुत ज्यादा होता है, वेन्स के अंदर कम होता है. So this means that every venule and every capillary has a capillary end and a
Yeah.
venular end. A capillary end has a high blood pressure and a venular end has a low blood pressure. ठीक है? With that, I end the meeting and then I'm going to restart again. If you want, you can just, I'll restart and then you can take a 2 to 3 minute break and then we'll again, start the class, right?
I'll join at 6:38.
Okay, fine. 6:38. Acha, fine.
6:39. I'm taking